Here we go! Let's go!
Welcome to Go Lurk Yourself, a podcast about streaming on the internet. My name is Krunnky.
And I am CherryCake.
Today we're taking a break from our usual interviews, and we're going to talk about the Super Mario Bros. Series from Nintendo. One of our all-time favorites, right?
Oh, yes, for sure.
We recently, Cherry and I both did I think she did a 20-hour stream or 21-hour stream, was it?
I think it ended up at 20. Didn't quite make the 24.
And it was all Mario the whole time?
Yes.
Nice. That was a lot of fun. I didn't get to see all 20 hours of it, obviously, but I watched a good chunk, and it was a lot of fun. It looked like you were having a good time anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like, retrospectively, I think I probably should have got through more games than I actually did, because I just got stuck on the first three Marios. So, actually, no, Mario 1 and Mario 3. I got stuck on so much, and I really shouldn't have.
Well, those if you didn't spend hundreds upon hundreds of hours in them, they don't come back so easy, do they?
No. I thought my platforming skills were better than that, though. Disappointed in myself.
Especially with all that Mario Maker that you did. I'm surprised. Do they play it different, maybe?
Yeah, I think the problem was because I was playing it on an emulator, so I think like the button lag that was being caused from using the controller on my PC through to the emulator itself, it kind of throws you off a little bit. Whereas obviously with the Wii U, it's just straight input. So.
Oh no, that's not true. On the Wii U, the virtual well, the Wii U for Mario Maker's one thing, but the Wii U virtual console versions of all the old games have like 10 millisecond button lag.
Oh, well, I mean, I was referring to Mario Maker.
Mario Maker. Yeah.
Sorry.
That makes more sense. No, that makes more sense. But even the Wii U's controller has button lag because there's a time that it takes for that big ass plastic controller they have to communicate back to the Wii. Not as bad as emulation though.
Yeah.
Which emulator were you using of copies that you own at home, I'm sure?
Yes. It was SNES 9X that I used.
Okay.
So I think I've used that one before, and it's pretty much one of the best ones. It seems to be compatible with like a ton of ROMs out there.
Yeah, it's funny because I really don't like emulators, but when it comes to streaming, sometimes it's just easier to emulate than it is to bust out all the connectors to hook up the old consoles. Because I have all these old consoles, but I have a capture device that'll hook up to RCA cables, the red, yellow, and white.
Yeah.
But it's janky and it doesn't it likes to drop signal and I'm like, man, it's just easier to emulate.
It really is.
There's a lot of purists out there who hate emulators for that reason, but when it comes to streaming, sometimes it's better just to get it and go and not spend an hour of your time messing with it. But
and plus the fact, like, you've already got the console itself, but for people that don't have it, it's another way for them to experience the games without actually having to go and spend money to find an old school console. Yeah,
which you may not even find a working one anyway.
Well, yeah.
When I first started streaming, I toyed around with streaming some Zelda 2 speedrunning because that fascinated me. So, I hung around that community of streamers long enough to realize that if I wanted to be taken seriously, I had to have OG hardware. So I went and found an old NES that barely worked, and I replaced all the pins in it so I could get it connected, and bought the game capture device. And man, it was just all this hassle. I got a CRT TV just so I could see it on the real. Yeah, because there was a delay. To watch it on a capture or an HDMI, there was a delay. So I got this great big ass TV in here that I've got hooked up, CRT TV, and now it's just sitting here collecting dust because I'm playing. I quickly went from going, streaming will be a way for me to play all the games I've always wanted to going, I still have to find the hours in the day to do it.
Yeah.
So you said you played Mario 1, 2, and 3, and did you play any Super Mario World?
No, for some reason, I don't know why, but I skipped. I think I was at the point where I was getting towards the end of the stream and my brain had just kind of gone to mush.
Yeah.
And I skipped from, I think possibly because I wanted to change as well, because I'd done 1, 2, and 3 and got stuck on them so much.
Right.
I needed to change from just the left to right standard platforming, so I went straight to Mario 64 after that, which arguably is my favourite Mario. It's a tough one to decide on that.
Did you get all the way through that one?
Oh, no. I think I got, no, I think I got into, maybe the first 6 or 7 levels, I think.
Wow.
Through that.
I haven't played that one since like 97 or 96, whenever it came out. I think it was 97.
It's such a great game. It's like, the only problem is with games for the N64, which were a sign of the times, was the camera controls, where you had to use, on Mario 64 at least, you had to use the C buttons, which were like the yellow arrows that were in the top corner on the controller, to move the camera itself. And even then it was like, it was a little bit broken. So
I remember sometimes you'd push it, and because it's not an analog, you push a button to move it just some distance, and then you have to push it twice to keep going. Yeah. Sometimes it's just like, nope, sorry, you don't get to move anymore.
You got to a wall, and it was like, no, you're not going any further.
No, bad person. Don't push that button.
Yeah.
I remember specifically one of the early levels. There's this like skinny little pedestal that moves around. You have to walk on, and the camera just will not hold still. I'm like trying to walk in a straight line, and it's like, oh, you're gonna move? Well, let me just spin you 180 degrees.
Yeah, I do remember. I know which one you mean. I can't remember the name of the level, but I do know what you mean.
Yeah, the one with the piranha plants around it. Yeah, the one sleeping. But so we're talking about Mario today. I did a stream as well. Shortly thereafter, I did Mario 1, 2, 3, and World. And I didn't complete them like 100% complete every level. I kind of used warp zones, jumped around, but just to kind of reacquaint myself with those classic games that I haven't played in a long time. And I didn't do any of the 3D ones again, because it's not been that long since I played a 3D one. And we got to talking after, a couple weeks ago, we did a Zelda retrospective, and I thought, we need to do the same thing for Mario, because we're pretty big Mario fans around here. I know a lot of our friends and parts of the community that we've cultivated here. We always talk Nintendo. There was a Nintendo Direct where they revealed Smash Brothers for the Switch, and that's got everybody all hyped again. So I thought, let's chat about Mario as a franchise. I also recently listened to an audiobook called Super Mario: How Japan, or How Nintendo Conquered America, from the 80s. And it was a really good listen. There were a couple things that I didn't know from that book that I went back and fact checked, and I found a couple discrepancies in the book. So the book was entertaining to kind of run through, but I can't say for sure that it's 100% accurate based on a couple things that I fact checked. But I really enjoyed listening to it nonetheless.
What's it called, Krunnky?
It's called Super Mario Brothers, or Super Mario Bros. How Japan Conquered the USA, or the US.
Okay. I have to listen to that.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's really entertaining, because it kind of starts from the very beginning, when Nintendo was trying to come up with a video game to compete with Pac-Man and some of the more successful games. There were basically two types of games in the arcade in the late 70s, early 80s. And they were either space shooters like Gradius and the prequels to that. Nintendo had one called, I should know this, called, it was a dual screen thing. But anyway, the story behind how those came around was really interesting, because they had like 2,000 of these arcade cabinets in warehouses, and they could barely sell 1,000 of them. And when they first came up with Super Mario Brothers, they were trying to make a Popeye game. If you don't know who Popeye is, he's a old cartoon character that eats spinach. Most people know who he is, but they were trying to come up with that. They were trying to get the rights to it, but they couldn't get the rights to a Popeye game. So they took basically the levels that they made for this game, and changed, the giant character Bluto into a monkey, Olive Oil into a Daisy, and then the Popeye into a generic, I think he was a carpenter in the original one, hence the hammer.
I do know much, yeah.
That was Donkey Kong. And I thought it was funny, because they wanted a giant ape named Kong, but they wanted him to be kind of a silly character. So they knew the name Donkey would mean he's kind of goofy, like a jackass, So that's where Donkey Kong came from.
So there's no reference to there's no basis that he was planned to be a donkey. It was just a name.
Right. It was almost like a translation error.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, he wasn't even Mario then. They named him Jumpman. And when they made the Mario yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's just Jumpman in the original one. He's not even a plumber. But as the story goes, where the kind of the Nintendo of America base where they were operating, selling their arcade cabinets out of, they came up with this Donkey Kong game. And instead of manufacturing a bunch of new cars or a bunch of new guts for these arcades, they paid their employees in Nintendo of America to basically retrofit all these failed shooter games that they couldn't move into Donkey Kong cabinets. So there's 1,000 of them that are this, and I wish I had the name of it. These old cabinets that have the classic look before they redesigned it. Those things are like huge collector's items right now all around the world. If you're a video game enthusiast, and obviously, Jumpman, when Donkey Kong had been around for a while, they had the Mario Bros. Game. And when they made the Super Mario Brothers game, Miyamoto wanted to make this game where he could escape to this like fantasy land, sort of like he did, like Miyamoto did as a kid. And that's where this Mushroom Kingdom came from. And the first Super Mario Brothers game came out in 1985 I think it was 81 when Donkey Kong came out, and then in Super Mario Brothers 1 came out in Japan in, I want to say 85.
You know better than me.
I'm just double checking here. Yeah, Mario became the star of his own side-scrolling platform in 85, titled Super Mario Brothers, which was a packing game for Nintendo consoles in the US. I don't know if it was it that way for you in UK, or you're probably too young to know.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
You probably weren't even born when that game came out.
What year did it come out, sorry?
1985.
That was the year I was born.
Well, there you go. So there, oh man. In doing the research for this episode, yes, I did do research, although it doesn't sound like it because I whiffed on a couple of memories here, but, Super Mario Brothers came out in the US like that Christmas, came packed in with the game, and that basically they couldn't keep them on the shelves. Just like Donkey Kong a couple of years before that, they couldn't fill enough orders. Everybody wanted a Donkey Kong arcade machine. The home console market blew up, partly thanks to Super Mario Brothers. It was a huge sensation at least in the US.
Yeah. So I have a question.
Yeah.
Right. So Mario originated from the Donkey Kong games that you were just saying then. Originally it wasn't called Donkey Kong, it was Jumpman. What, I don't know if you actually know, but what inspired like the change? Because the way Donkey Kong the game is completely different from what we know as Super Mario. So what happened in that little period where they decided, oh, we need to take this character from Donkey Kong and make him his own franchise and completely change the style of the game? It will be a side-scrolling game.
I think it's very interesting because in reading up, listening to that audiobook and doing some research, the way Mr. Miyamoto makes games is he comes up with an idea of an action and a concept of movement and an action in the game, and then everything else is retrofitted. So I read a little bit yesterday that even though Zelda came out sometime later than Mario, Zelda was near completion when they were in mid-process of working on Super Mario Brothers 1. So that means Miyamoto and his crew were working on Zelda 1 and Mario 1 at the same time, concurrently, and even though one released quite a bit later. And his idea was to have a more adventure-type, grand sweeping adventure in Zelda as an overworld, and then a side-scrolling action game. Mario was originally supposed to have a gun, if you can believe that.
No way.
Yeah, I saw this diagram that was translated from Japanese of the Nintendo controller. You can picture the NES controller in your mind. It's basically start and select button in the middle, B, A on the right side, and the D-pad on the left. Mm-hmm. And if you've played Mario at all, you know that B is run, A is jump. Originally, when he had a gun, up was jump. Oh. B was run and A was attack, whatever the attack animation was to shoot a gun.
Ooh. Can you imagine using up as jump?
Yeah.
That would be so awkward.
That same article that I read said some of those test levels from attack made their way into Super Mario Land for the Game Boy. Did you ever play that one?
Yeah. No.
Where he could like fly a plane and stuff.
No, I played Super Mario Land 2, the God, the coin one. I can't remember the name of it.
Was it on the Game Boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you remember there were levels where you could fly a plane and shoot, right? The enemies would come to left to right, or come right to left at Mario. Did it have those kind of levels?
I don't think it had it in that one, no.
Okay, the first one did. I remember playing it. I never had a Game Boy when I was that little, but my friend did, and I was able to play it here and there. And some of those were actual levels that they had in the test environment for Mario 1.
Yeah. See, I always find like, what do you know what kind of year we're talking with the Game Boy in relation to like Mario and Super Mario Land?
Yeah, Super Mario Land came out. I think it's like 89, 88 or 89.
Yeah. So one thing I've always found fascinating with Mario is that the different types of game styles it can come out with, but still be in the same under the same umbrella of Mario. Because you have like Mario 1, Mario 3, Mario Land as well. They're typically side-scrolling adventures. Mario 2 is a bit of something out of left field, which is the physics to that game are completely strange, and the character designs and some of the actions that you can do in that game are completely different. Again, with Super Mario 3, you have the introduction of the feather, which you can fly. Super Mario World is where Yoshi get introduced in that one.
Yeah, World was where Yoshi came in.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, it's funny that you bring that up because Super Mario 1 was supposed to have the dinosaur in it.
Oh, really?
Just because of hardware limitations, they couldn't do it. If you've played them all enough to know, each game introduced, let's take Super Mario Brothers 2 out of the equation because what we know as Mario 2 was a different game that was released in Japan. They reskinned it and launched it in the US because they thought the Lost Levels game would not go over well because it was too difficult.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the stories. The other one was that it wasn't very well received because it was kind of a trolley game where they introduced a bunch of things that just to increase difficulty. But Super Mario Brothers 1 was the first game they came out with, and Lost Levels they basically amped everything up a little bit. Mario 3 they completely reinvented the concept from the ground up. They introduced the leaf you could fly, all these things that they couldn't do in the original. A lot of ideas that were cut from the drawing board due to space limitations. You have to remember the original Super Mario Brothers file on the disc was 32 megabytes.
Oh wow.
If you're listening to this podcast right now, open up your phone or however you listen to it and look at the Go Lurk Yourself logo is more than 32 megabytes.
Okay.
Just the logo of our podcast is more data than that game was. So they had to make things fit. And it's really interesting too, because looking at some of the ports, Nintendo outsourced some ports for PC versions of Mario 1 and Mario 3. They never made it to release outside of a couple, I think, Korea got Super Mario Brothers Special from Hudson Soft. And if you go watch it, it's like Bizarro World Mario. The characters are floaty. The graphics are they have more sprite flickering than even NES does on its slowest days. The music doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
In Mario, you know how when you're playing on the Nintendo, the game loads left to right, and when you move, the screen scrolls, right?
Yes.
Hudson couldn't figure that out on the PC. So basically, you start out, you run the first level, and you jump in the air to jump on the first little Goomba, but you're too far to the right of the screen. So the screen stops, goes black. It redraws the next screen, and then it comes in and puts you on the left side of the screen again. And loads in. Sort of like how Zelda 1 did. If you went to the side of the screen, it would
it would move across, wouldn't it?
It would move, but everything would pause while it did it. Yeah. But instead of doing that pause and showing it move, it would just turn to black and then it'd come back.
Bad.
And while it's doing that loading time, the music stalls. So the music's da 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 da. It just holds a note. You're like, no.
Oh, man.
Which, I'm a bit of a musician, so that the beat, not being on beat drives me crazy. Yeah. And it makes me wonder, how much of old NES games like that are so nostalgic because of just the music. You spent hours doing it, but the music's really good in those games. Koji Kondo is the producer of most Mario games music, and the guy, he also does a lot of Zelda. I mean, he's just absolute he's the John Williams of video game music. It's just all there is to it.
I will say Mario 2 is some of my favorite music out of the entire Mario series.
Yeah. I think that's the first time that, the first Mario game and Zelda game, they're just figuring out how everything works then, right?
Yeah.
So by the time Mario 2 and 3 comes around on the NES, they've got that hardware figured out. They figured out ways in that book that I listened to, they were talking about, they were basically reverse engineering ways to get audio tracks as small as possible to fit into the game, because 32 megabytes is everything. It's just the video. It's the sprites, the number crunching for all the calculations that it has to do. Yeah. Keeping track of how many lives you have. That's all data that it has to use. Every note of music's in there too, and it has to display it all in real time.
Wow.
And to think they put in 32 levels in that game. That's pretty incredible. So we got Mario 1, 2, and 3 were on the NES, and the first one to come out for the Super Nintendo was Super Mario World. Were you younger when you played that for the first time?
Hang on. Super Mario 3 was on the NES?
The NES.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you how much they really mastered the hardware from Mario 1 to Mario 3. They figured out basically that they could get around some system limitations of the console by putting more of the game and some of the processing power on the cartridge itself. So when you plug a Super Mario Brothers 3 deck or cartridge into the deck, it's actually doing some of the processing on the cart itself. Huh. And then they figured out how to do more of that better on the Super Nintendo you've heard of like Mode 7 and those things like that.
I think I've mentioned this before. I think I mentioned it when we were interviewing Beardy about retro stuff. But my first encounter with, I think, Mario as a whole was when I was playing the SNES at my grandparents' house. The Super Mario All Stars that got released for the SNES was my first ever like gameplay of it. So I honestly didn't know Super Mario 3 was on the NES.
It looks drastically better and different now, especially if you go back and look at the non-All-Star versions. For those of you guys who don't know, the All-Stars was a Super Nintendo like all-in-one version of Mario 1, 2, and 3 and World, all on one cartridge. It was a steal if you never played.
Not World. Lost Levels.
In the US, there was a cartridge that had them all on it.
We only got Mario 1, 2, 3, and Lost Levels on them.
Oh, okay. Maybe the one I'm thinking of was after that too, where they packaged them all in one.
Did they do a re-release of it?
Maybe they did. I think that might be the only one I saw, because I didn't get All Stars when it came out because I already had all the old ones in the console itself. So yeah, that's my mistake. There probably was a later re-release that had them all on it. But so you played Mario 3 a lot then on the All Stars version.
Yes.
Did you ever play Mario World as well?
Mario World kind of passed me by. I don't know why. I don't think I was particularly aware of it, and I don't know why. But I do remember, I think my sister playing it. I don't know if I actually got to play it, but I do remember some kind of gameplay of it when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I don't remember playing it myself.
Okay, so you didn't get to play Mario World as much, but you may have watched somebody play it as the younger sibling. That was your joy and your curse.
Yeah, I got demoted to the settee to watch.
So the Mario All Stars and Mario World compilation came out on the Super Nintendo in December of '94 in America and '95 in Europe.
Ah, okay.
It was never released in Japan. Oh. And it usually came packaged like a later in life console bundle. It came with a Super NES Mario set.
Oh, right.
That's pretty interesting. It seems like a good game to get a hold of if you have a Super Nintendo. Yeah. Because, it's 5 great games in one.
Yeah.
Although I've never finished Lost Levels. And I remember when you were doing your stream, you originally said you were going to do Lost Levels. So I go, hey.
Yeah, you talked me out of doing it.
Have at it. But I just warned you might get a little salty.
Yeah. I think to this day, I don't think I've actually attempted them. And if I have, I haven't ever got past the first level. I don't have any recollection of them. Well,
what I can tell you is the first mushroom you can get is stuck. You have to bounce it out. And then the second mushroom you find, or actually the first mushroom will kill you. It's a poison mushroom.
Oh, man.
And then they've got trolley blocks like on the bad Mario Maker levels where the jump that you clearly need to make, there's an invisible coin that hits you and knocks you down into a.
No way.
It was the first time I ever saw that kind of stuff. And then the game just was was hard because from what I've read, Mario Miyamoto really didn't want to make a sequel and was kind of strong-armed into it. So he was like, "Oh, you guys want a sequel? I'll give you a sequel."
So did Lost Levels come after Mario 1 then?
Yeah, in Japan, Mario 1 came out and they were like, "We need another one. We need another one." He wanted to evolve the series. As I mentioned to you or mentioned earlier, Miyamoto never really likes to retread old ground. He wants to constantly innovate. And with that innovation comes really interesting and awesome groundbreaking things, and then every once in a while some things that kind of fall flat.
Yeah.
Wii Music. If you've never played Wii Music, man, it's like it was the first time I ever thought, oh, there's nobody at Nintendo that can look at Miyamoto and go, "This isn't working, dude. Hang it up." But I mean, I have a great love for the Mario franchise, and you know what? For every Wii Music or Star Fox Zero, where I think they really missed the mark, there's 10 titles that are like revolutionary for their time and helped the industry more than they hurt it. So you got to just suffer that, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Nintendo refers to that as their blue ocean strategy. If you're always on the cutting edge and inventing new things, you're going to have some misses, but your hits will outweigh your misses, so it's okay. It's just like the cost of being an innovator in the industry, I think.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that to me before about the blue ocean. And there's definitely been some times where Nintendo have come out with some things and you think, not too sure about that, guys.
Like Nintendo Labo.
Hey, that's a whole different story.
But it's definitely an example of blue ocean thinking.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
Because there ain't nobody else doing that, I can tell you that. I can't wait to see Sony and Microsoft try to copy it.
Oh, yeah. That'll be the day, man. That'll be interesting to see.
Make your own cardboard Master Chief helmet.
Yeah. Oh, God. But the thing is, like, when Nintendo do come out with stuff like that, they do it so well that even the imitations can't live up to the originals.
Right. I agree with that 100%. They do everything to a degree that sets the standard.
Yeah.
I've played some really good platformers. Who's the Ubisoft guy that doesn't have any? He has arms and legs or hands and feet, but no arms and legs.
Rayman.
Rayman. Yeah, Rayman has some really good platformers, but there's not ever a time I played one where I don't go, well, this is almost as good as Mario.
Oh yeah, comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever have played platformers. Can you think of a platformer that even comes close?
Not really, no.
Yeah, people will say Sonic, and I have heavy, strong opinions about that because I think Sonic is.
No, I agree with you on that one because while Sonic, I like Sonic. I know you're not as big of a fan as me, but while they're of the same kind of era, and they technically are platformers, they're two distinctly different style of platformers. Whereas Mario,
for sure,
you have it's very slower paced. You have power-ups. You have that kind of stuff in Mario. But then Sonic, on the flip side, it's just speed. Everything is about speed in Sonic.
Everything's about speed, and then all of a sudden, with a hair trigger, stopping everything and dying for no reason.
Yeah, I know you don't like that.
No, I like from a nostalgia standpoint. I played Sonic 1 and 2 and maybe 3. I enjoyed them, but I never really appreciated them like some other people will say, like friends of mine would go, I actually like Sonic more than Mario. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. Don't agree, but agree to disagree. Yeah. Everyone has different tastes.
I think I used to be like that when I was younger. Because Sonic was the first one that I played. I got to Mario at a later stage. We got the Mega Drive, or the Genesis, and we call it the Mega Drive. Again, at my
Mega Drive.
No, yeah, we were celebrating.
You silly Europeans.
Shut up! I don't know why is it called the Genesis then? All right,
it's equally as lame. I'm not defending it.
Sega.
Because it's the beginning it's the rebirth of video games, man.
The Mega Drive. It's mega. It's awesome. It's a drive. Question mark. Anyway, we got that console one Christmas when we were celebrating with our grandparents again, and it came bundled with Sonic 1. Sonic 2 it came with. So I think that was my first introduction to like proper platformers. And then at a later stage, like I was saying, we eventually got around to getting, my grandparents got a SNES and eventually got to Mario. But Sonic was my first hands-on experience with that kind and type of gaming. So I do like Sonic, but I think as I've grown older, I think Mario has probably taken that one step ahead. But again, because Sonic is not really around anymore, Mario's still going.
Well, and that's interesting that you say it, because it dovetails right into my next point. In 1995, the last 2D Mario game that I know of that came out was Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. Did you ever play that one?
Yes, I think so. Is that the one where you actually play as Yoshi and like you have baby Marios?
Exactly. Yeah. I played that one. I've rented it from Blockbuster.
Oh, old school. And I remember those days.
Yeah. And I played it for all of about 30 minutes before I shut it off. Because I just could. It's the first, you talk about those steps. Nintendo will take some gambles. They took Miyamoto's like, I like the idea of playing as Yoshi and throwing eggs and having to carry this guy around. And they invented all these game mechanics. And then they said, okay, who do we put in it? Let's put our characters in it. Let's put Yoshi in it. Let's put, all these Mario, and we'll call it Super Mario World 2. And it was okay, but it was so different than what Mario was for me at the time. Plus, I was like 16, 17 at that time. I was driving car and trying to go out and take girls to movies and stuff. I was a busy man. I didn't have time for baby games anymore.
But
at least for a few more years.
Yeah, well, yeah. Could that have been from like a selling point? Like if you market it as a Super Mario, it's going to sell better than if you just purely say Yoshi's Island.
Absolutely. I believe that is the case. Nintendo is not shy to throw their characters in whatever franchise. See, Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, for example.
Oh yes.
You know what I mean?
I blocked that out.
Yeah. I mean, we're just talking about the Super Mario Brothers series right now. But if we were to open this up to all games that have Mario in it, we would never finish a podcast because we could literally talk about every game and never get through it.
Oh yeah. I think when I was scheduling my 24-hour stream for the Mario games, I could just do the Google search on Super Mario games, and the list that comes up is never ending for the games that aren't like purely Super Mario games, platformers, etc. Just for the games that include Mario or anything to do with Mario, even if it's like
Mario teaches typing.
Yeah, yes, I saw that and I was like, come on. So yeah, I totally get that.
If you're counting international releases that say Super Mario in the title, there are 24 games released over 33 years, and that includes Mario Odyssey this year.
Really?
No, last year. Yeah. Wow. So I'm not counting Super Mario Kart. I'm just talking about a game that's Super Mario Brothers that's mostly platforming, or 3D or 2D, and is counted what I would consider Mario. I've tallied them up. The only time they had multi-releases was 2012 and 2013. They had New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS and New Super Mario Bros. U for the Wii U as a launch title. Yeah. And then 2013, they had New Super Luigi U, which is really an expansion, but they also had a standalone release, so I got to count it. And then Super Mario 3D World for the Wii U.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, if you take those 2 years out, every other one, and there were several stretches where there were no Super Mario Brothers games. Yeah. Like I remember friends getting upset about Mario being oversaturated, but from 96 to 2002, there was no Super Mario Brothers game released.
Really?
That's a big stretch. If that were to happen today, you'd feel it. But that was back in the time when games weren't released as frequently as they are now. There was less competition. You didn't have Microsoft. It wasn't until 2000, I think, Xbox came into play, and Sony had their PlayStation 2 came out in what? 2000-ish, 2001 maybe? I don't remember.
So they really tried capitalizing on it in that period when Super Mario was at high then, didn't they? Because if you said that there was no releases between, what was it, 96?
96, yeah. Mario World came out, and then there was no game until Mario Sunshine.
So when was...
I'm sorry, Mario 64. Yeah. Mario 64.
So it was from what, 85 was it, the first one?
Yeah, 85 to 95, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games released. And then breaks on. But I think, too, that kind of goes into what we're talking about here. After Yoshi's Island, they made the jump in true Nintendo fashion. Not only did they take Mario into 3D, they were one of the first fully 3D platformer games to come out. And in my opinion, dated camera issues aside, they nailed it. Because completely. For the time, there was nothing like it. Nothing was even remotely similar to it or as good and comfortable to play for, I would say, 5 years after that. What's the next 3D platformer game you remember playing that was great?
Are we discounting Zelda? Ocarina
Any
of
them? Yeah. You could call it Ocarina. Ocarina came out a year later. But yeah, Nintendo used the same engine too.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Even other games on the same console, like Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong 64, didn't really capture that magic. Have you played any of those?
No, see, I never got to Banjo-Kazooie.
So what Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong did was they said, hey, and they were both made by Rare. Great game company, but they're not Nintendo. They're just different. Rare also is making Sea of Thieves right now, just in case you're wondering.
They are.
Not even close to the same company as they were in 1996.
Slightly different.
But yeah, they've been bought. They got sold to Microsoft, and then all their talent left. But they have Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64 basically were bigger stages than Mario 64 and a lot more crap to collect. In Banjo-Kazooie, you had to collect different various items, puzzle pieces and rare hidden things. Yeah. And I don't even remember. It's been so long, but I played Banjo-Kazooie 1 and 2 all the way through. I couldn't get enough in 64. And then Donkey Kong 64 came out. I'm like, this is just Banjo-Kazooie with apes. And instead of coins, you collect bananas. Yeah. And I got bored of it. The thrill was gone because you're trying to recapture that magic and they don't quite play it as well as Mario played.
Yeah.
And Zelda, I would say with the Z targeting was basically we're kind of getting off the Mario thing here, but just talking about Nintendo, how they were able to capture stuff. Zelda's Z targeting basically is the impetus of all 3D action games almost for the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
They were the first ones to do it.
Is that the first instance of it? Were they the ones to introduce that?
I can't say for sure that they were because there's probably some obscure PC game no one's played that did it better or did it first, but they were the first mass marketed ones that everyone widely acknowledged was great. They had the power, the oomph, and the gumption to get it off the ground and get it in everybody's hands. Where there's probably some PC game a couple years before that was good, but just no one played it. I mean, to have a gaming PC in 1996 was a very wealthy person's game. You had to have, $2,500 in disposable income to blow on a system to play 8-bit DOS games.
Oh God, yeah. I remember when we first got our PC. I think I was in high school, so it would have been like late 90s that we got ours. And even then, it was like it could run like. Did you ever play Myst?
Yeah,
yeah. It ran that, and I think that was about the stretch that it could do.
The Myst, or as I call it, how the hell do I do this puzzle simulator?
It was really bad. It was so hard.
There was a game like that. I don't remember. There's a name for those games, that genre, called Seventh Guest. That was like a horror game, and it was a lot more entertaining because the puzzles were animated and they were less fetch quests. Go here and flip a switch and then run back and check what it did. And they were more just like game of chess against a computer, but. So anyway, back into Mario 64. Yeah. Man, squirrel.
So true.
There was a 5-year gap between Mario 64, which I think we've talked ad nauseum about how it has basically it revolutionized the industry, gaming industry, set a new standard for 3D platformers, and then Nintendo did what I would consider one of their first missteps in the Mario franchise. Not their only one, but one of the ones that is it's controversial. Not everyone agrees. Some people love Mario Sunshine the best, but the GameCube came out in 2001, 2002, and they had a Mario. They didn't have a Mario game ready. The game launched the system launched with Luigi's Mansion and a couple other not exciting games. I remember waiting in line for that one. And Super Mario Sunshine came out quite a bit later. I'm going to look up the exact date it came out because now I can't remember.
I do remember we had GameCube,
Yeah.
And I specifically remember we had one of the Mario parties for it. And we also had the Donkey Kong game that came with the bongos. It was like a rhythm game that you could play with it, which was it was a lot of fun. I don't know, I can't really remember much of it, so I can't remember how much it actually worked. But I do remember having that peripheral, the bongos that came. Well, I don't know if they came with it or you had to buy them. But yeah, that was. I do remember a lot of Mario Party because we used to play it at Christmas because you could get the whole family involved in it, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely, it was a great game, I think. So let's see. The GameCube came out in 2001, September of 2001 for Japan, North America, November 18th, the same year, and then May in Europe. So you figure those games came out, and then it was almost a year and a half later, Mario Sunshine came out. That is insane amount of delay compared to what we were used to. Before that, NES came with a Mario game. Super NES came with a Mario game. And then N64 came with a Mario game on launch. So when the GameCube came out, it was the first time they didn't have that system or didn't have a system mover like that. And it came out quite a bit later. And everything that I've read and researched on was that it was a bit of a rushed game. And if you've played Mario Sunshine, I think it shows a bit. Some of the puzzles aren't as thoroughly tested and not as like if you played Mario Odyssey lately, there's nothing about that game that feels rushed. It all feels polished to the nth degree. And the same can't be said for Mario Sunshine. It's the only 3D Mario game I didn't finish.
So what was the thinking behind releasing the GameCube before they had a Mario for it then?
Well, my guess is they were starting to see a lot tighter game market. I mean, Microsoft came out, then Sony's PlayStation 2 was just this massive front runner. It had huge success. Nintendo was in contacts with Sony to release a console together, and the deal went bad, and Sony said, "Screw you, we'll release our own."
Okay.
And was just eating their lunch. I mean, just really taking them to task in the market and just dominate them. So I think that's why they rushed the GameCube out to have a next generation console, because at the time it was pretty sophisticated system for as compact and small as it was with little mini discs. Yeah. They had their own way to combat piracy in their mind, because PlayStation was no one likes to talk about it, but it was one of the most pirated systems ever.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Yep.
If you didn't do it yourself, you knew someone who did,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
Yeah. I think, was PlayStation 1 completely there was no protection at all, or was it very easy to bypass?
One of the two.
I never had a PlayStation 1, so I don't really know.
Yeah, the PlayStation 1 was ridiculous. Like you say, if you didn't do it yourself, you knew someone who had done it, or knew someone that could do it. Right.
It's kind of like the Microsoft Red Ring of Death. Yeah. If you didn't have it happen to you, you knew two people that did.
Yeah, definitely.
It was. I remember when they released official figures that they said it was like 30%. I'm like, there's no way it's that low.
No
way.
No.
Unless they're counting all the ones they had to make since they found out it was broken. It's a good way to sell your console. Just buy the game when it breaks.
That's so bad.
Yeah. It was shit. I don't know. I really liked the Xbox 360 up until that point too. I was a pretty big fan of it. I was like, "Oh, an American company, good for us," And then, oh no, it's completely broken. And mistakes happen. And the NES is notoriously badly designed too, because they tried to make it look like a VCR instead of a game console.
Yeah, but you've got to think, Krunnky, how long ago was that? Technology will have advanced for when the Xbox was released. You would think they would get some of it right.
It was like 20 years between, but less so than just the technology. The Xbox 360 is a way more sophisticated device than the NES.
Yeah.
But it was the way that they supported it. Nintendo supported the NES and would relatively cheaply fix it for you until like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a news story that they honored their manufacturing warranty so long since the NES came out. After that design flaw was found early on, but I don't know. I'm not going to shit on Xbox. Xbox does some great things, and they've moved the industry forward. I wish Nintendo would copy their Xbox Live party system and chat system.
Yeah, that's a story for another day.
Exactly. And I like the PS4 and the PS3 and the PS4 for a lot of reasons. There's some things I don't like about them.
The thing is, just while we're on that topic, I think because Xbox and PlayStation and Sony have already targeted their audience for online gaming, I think they're a lot more they're well versed in that area. Whereas Nintendo, to me, they're not particularly for that audience. So
they're very insulated, I think, in Japan market. If you don't have to look very farther than if you look at the success of Splatoon, there's a lot of people who don't even know what Splatoon is in America, or like in the people that you and I hang out with. Not everybody even has played it. Or have you ever played Splatoon?
No, I've never played it.
No. Probably doesn't look like something you'd be very interested in, does it?
Not really, no.
But it is a massive. Exactly, but it's a massive success in Japan. Like it's the #1 game sold over there, like almost every year.
Really?
And it's like competitive. They've got, because sort of like the DS, the Nintendo Switch can communicate with other Nintendo Switches in the vicinity. So Japan's tightly compact.
Yeah.
Everyone takes public transport. So people on public transport going to their jobs whip out their 3DS or their Wii U, and they play with each other. I mean, imagine how cool that would be on your way to work. I got a 45-minute commute. I don't care. I'm just going to play video games with my buddies all the way there.
Sure.
And I think a lot of that Street Pass on the 3DS, all that stuff comes from that Japanese thinking.
I remember that,
and it's hard for them, or they don't care to. I don't know. It's not for me to say, but I definitely have noticed it over the decade or two that I've been watching it. But as a kid, I didn't understand. I just thought, oh, this is cool. But
go
on. No, I was going to change subject.
No,
Please,
let's get back on topic.
No, you talk. Talk.
Get back on topic. It's meant to be about Mario.
All right, so Mario Sunshine comes out. Have you ever finished that one? Did you ever play it at all?
I never played Mario Sunshine. Nope.
Do me a favor. Track down a legit GameCube and play it on stream. And
okay.
Or if you can't track down a legit GameCube, find some other way of playing it. We don't endorse piracy here on Go Like Yourself.
I thought you said that this was like a blip in the road for them.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to play it for the sheer enjoyment and to complete it, but play it so you can have an idea and see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I would urge anyone who hasn't played it to, and I've actively looked at ways of finishing it. I have a GameCube, but it's doesn't have HDMI out, so I'd have to literally hook it up with RCA cables.
Yeah.
But so that came out in 2002. In 2004, the 64 remake came out on the DS. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that one, but then they came out with New Super Mario Brothers on the DS, which was kind of a return to form for them. You figure the last real 2D Mario game came out, console Mario game came out in 1990, or if you count Mario Land on the Game Boy, 92. We didn't go back to side-scrolling 2D game till 2006, and basically the series split off into two right there. Yeah. So you've got more than a 10-year gap. And I remember played the hell out of New Super Mario Brothers for the DS, had a lot of fun with it because it'd been a long time since I played new Nintendo created levels.
So the new New Super Mario Brothers that came out for the DS. So
came out DS first, yeah.
Was this before? Oh, when was the Wii U released?
The Wii U came out in 2012.
All right, so this is quite, because I was just thinking there was a New Super Mario Brothers for the Wii U, but it wasn't a port. Was it a different game?
No, these were all different. I mean, different being the key word. It's funny because with the news of Smash Brothers coming for the Switch, there's all this talk about, is it a port? Is it a brand new game? Or is it a new game using a lot of the assets from the other game? What is a port? Because New Super Mario Brothers came out in 2006. New Super Mario Brothers Wii came out in 2009. And New Super Mario Brothers U came out in 2012. I mean, other than slight updates in graphics to match the hardware, those, obviously the jump from DS to Wii and Wii to Wii U are less significant, but they were basically the same game. You're Mario and Luigi, you're running left to right on these levels, and they'd introduce a new power-up. I think it was I know on the New Super Mario Bros. U, it was like the flying squirrel upgrade. You get you could like shoot up in the air if you push the right button.
Not the it's like got a flower on its head. The red suit one.
Yeah, in New Super Mario Brothers Wii and actually in DS or the New Super Mario Brothers, you could get the propeller.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
The beanie, yeah, that was definitely in the DS version.
Oh, right.
I think the Wii version may have had that too, and another power up. I can't remember. It's pretty bad. Didn't they have one where you could like sail like a flying squirrel?
Oh God, I had it. I did have it.
I hear you googling it right now.
I did have it for the Wii U, but I didn't specifically enjoy it.
No?
No, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't anything that really stood out.
Yeah. I mean, I played all three of them, and the only thing I really remember about the Wii U version is that it had the nice time trial modes and the world records. You could race your ghost and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it had some really neat tools for like record setting and stuff like that. And it had the online integration for Miiverse, if you remember that.
Yes, yeah. Oh, which has sadly left us now.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone forever. And then it's been replaced by nothing. The Switch has, I love the Nintendo Switch, and it just goes to show you that when they take their focus off of extra fluff and just focus on doing the damn thing right, how much better it could be. But now all the account profile stuff and the Me stuff, it's all just gone.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be bringing some of it back. There's supposed to be a big update in the next couple of weeks for the Switch's UI, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. But you're right. It looked like an acorn, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it was. Because it came out of a tree at the beginning, little intro. Bowser hits a tree and they all fly everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
So after New Super Mario Bros. in 06 and 07 for the Wii comes Super Mario Galaxy, which I know you haven't played because I've probably badgered you about it for 6 months.
Yes, you have.
You totally need to play it because I think Mario Galaxy is one of the highlights of Nintendo trying new things and pulling it off very well. It's like Mario 64, but the gameplay mechanic that they built most of it off of was gravity, and all the worlds are these 3D spaces that Mario can jump between, and the different sized planets have stronger gravity, or they attract you from farther out. So all their puzzles are based off gravity and jumping from spheroid to spheroid, and there's black holes in the middle of some of them, so if you fall into them, you die. It's just a very unique and interesting concept that they pull off to perfection. All things considered, I did not finish Mario Galaxy 2 because it basically starts ramping up in difficulty right after Galaxy 1. And when we first, when Galaxy 2 came out in 2010, we had just moved into our new house, and basically I spent a year and a half doing construction because we bought a fixer-upper. We bought a fixer-upper, and I was a lot fitter then because I worked a lot more out. I worked every day for like a year. I redid the roof and the bathroom in this house, and basically I didn't. Every time I sat down to play video games, I would just doze off because I was tired. But excellent games. I highly recommend at least Mario Galaxy 1 because it's got a hub world like Mario 64 does, and instead of collecting, you collect stars in that one too. So it's very much the sequel to Mario 64 that Sunshine wasn't.
Just on the topic of Galaxy, from a selling standpoint, was the Wii, the base actual Wii, not the Wii U, was that a good seller?
Mario Galaxy for the Wii, it didn't sell as well.
The console itself, the Wii.
Oh yeah, the Wii is won that console generation famously because it sold to gamers and non-gamers alike. I mean, I know your grandparents were hip and cool and they played Genesis Mega Drive and Super Nintendo, but most grandma and grandpas from my generation are like, what's a video game? Oh, you mean like Pac-Man? Yeah. And you're like, no. But there were people playing the Wii for Wii Sports and Wii Fit that never played anything else other than those two titles. If they played those two, they might have just thought it was the Wii Sports machine. Yeah.
I was just wondering because I think, again, I don't know if it was just that period in my life where I was busy doing other things, but I do remember the Wii, but I don't specifically remember Galaxy being like a major title that was something that I had to get or had to play. I don't know if it was just over here. I don't know. I don't know what the sales figures were over in Europe.
I'm not sure either, but I know it was, when it comes to the Wii console, there are only a handful of like true gamer gems in there, because there was a lot of what they call shovelware on that system, where just people, because it had such an install base, everybody had it. There were a lot of like gimmicky games that came out for it. My daughter loved to play some of those games because they were simplistic, and she was like 4, and there were a bunch of EA like Sims games that were ported, like real crappy, shake the Wiimote to make your character swing a sword and run around here and do this. And she played a lot of those, because we could go to like the used game store and get them for $1 or $2, because they were literally shovelware. But I do know that Twilight Princess was a launch title, or came out shortly after launch.
Yeah.
New Super Mario Brothers Wii I played on there. Super Mario Galaxy. They did re-release, or maybe it was the first time, Metroid Prime 3. There was basically a Metroid Prime game on the Wii. Also, Xenoblade Chronicles was on the Wii when it came late in the life cycle, but it was a great RPG. But there are a handful of good games that came out for that console that a lot of people missed, because it quickly got that reputation of being a gimmicky toy. Because it was both. And I think that success is what led to the failure of Wii U. That fickle game, non-gamer market that they tapped into with the help of having a slick Apple-looking interface. So while Grandma was getting into her iPhone, she's like, "Ooh, what other tech is out there? Oh, this thing that lets me bowl and play golf with my grandson is pretty cool. Let's get that." They were fickle, and they disappeared after. It's almost ironic, because to me, what killed the Wii and led the Wii U to die on the vine as well was exactly what Nintendo solved when they resuscitated the video game avalanche or drought that happened in the 80s. When Atari flooded the market with Nintendo stuff, market collapse in the 80s, and Atari just let anybody put out whatever game they wanted, and there was so much low quality stuff that everyone just moved on. They're like, video games suck now. Okay, what's next? And the Wii sort of did that. The Wii would let anything else go out there, so much so that when Nintendo would take the time to put in a motion control, a well thought out idea for a motion control in a game, it got huge backlash, because people said, "Oh, this is motion control. Motion control sucks," because they'd only played, or the majority of the motion control games they played were cheap ass shit that nobody wanted to play. And that said, they put out Star Fox Zero, which had crappy motion controls, and I gave it a chance. I don't just try something once and go, "This sucks," and never try it. I go, "Okay, maybe I just need to be more patient." No, it didn't work. But I always found that interesting that Wii, that and their poor marketing of the Wii U. If you go back and look, I've probably said this on this podcast before, but I'm a diehard Nintendo fan, lifelong gamer. And when the Wii U came out, I saw the commercial for it, and I saw the advertisement, and I went and researched it, and I still wasn't sure whether it was a new system or an accessory.
Yeah, I remember when it was being advertised on the television, and I was like, I could never distinguish whether it was just the controller that was the console in inverted commas, or if it was like an add-on to the Wii, or if it was a completely new console that they were bringing out. It was never clear what it was as a gaming console.
And that's you and me, young hip gamers talking. If you could imagine, if you could imagine, like, Grandma who bought the Wii 2 years ago and is sitting in their closet collecting dust, sees that on commercial and goes, "Oh, people still do that? Didn't I sell that at a yard sale? I don't know." You know what I mean? The thing was dead on arrival, and the Wii U has arguably some of the best Nintendo games of all time came on the Wii U. And I know that's a lot of hyperbole, but if you go back and look, there's 14. I think I did this just as a thought experiment the other day. There's 14 games on the Wii U that I could say everyone should play these. They're great games. They're hidden gems. Now, a lot of them are getting ported to the Switch. Yeah. as we had recently had a good discussion with a friend of ours, B-Shib, about, he's one of those scorned Wii U people that, like me, I'm not scorned, but I recognize that people who are upset about the Wii U titles all finding their way over to Switch, I get it. Nintendo has to do that. They've got too much money sunk into those games they didn't get back. It's a smart move. Their IPs are sitting on the vine. They got to get a lot of excitement around their hardware, and it's working. You can't deny that the Switch is popular right now.
But then I was making the point, like, for those that, because the Wii U was such a bad seller, for those that didn't have the chance or weren't bothered about the actual console itself, they didn't get the chance to play these pretty decent games that were released for it. We'll probably now get the chance.
Yes, absolutely. I understand it. It just sucks for the people that were like me or who love Nintendo and bought the Wii U and bought the Wii U games because they're going to get those Wii U games no matter what. Now I paid $50, $60 for that game 2 years ago, but if I want to play it now with my friends and I want to have the deluxe version with the extra characters stuff, I got to pay for it again. And I wish I think Nintendo could have, i.e. should have done some kind of ambassadorship program, sort of like they did when the 3DS launched, of giving us, I mean, throw me a bone here. Give me 55% off, or give me a bonus. Give me like I'd even settle for like a special in-game item that was like a Founders Edition shirt on my character. You know what I mean? Something silly like that would be something. But, you know, I'm a sucker. I'm going to buy it all anyway.
That's why they do it.
Nintendo hooked me young, those bastards.
People like you.
Hey, kid, you want some Mario Brothers?
No, that was just creepy.
We're only going to sell you 24 more games over the next 34 years. But don't worry, we'll sell them to you multiple times on multiple consoles. I mean, we all should have seen this on the roadmap when they rolled out the Virtual Console. You know how many times I bought Super Mario Brothers for Virtual Console across the Wii U?
You know that's going to happen again for the Switch, and you know you're going to buy it again.
No, I'm not buying Mario Brothers again. I'm telling you right now. I'm not going to buy any Nintendo or Super Nintendo games. I'm not buying them. I'm here to tell you. I bought the NES Classic and the Super NES Classic for that.
Yeah, but you can't play them on the go.
Oh, I just hook them up to a car battery and a small CRT monitor, and I'm good to go.
God. Anyway,
not to derail too much for the fifth time this podcast. So the Wii U comes out. We get 3D. We get Mario Galaxy 2 was on the Wii. Then the Wii U comes out. We get Mario 3D Land, which was that was on the 3DS. The first 3D Land was on the 3DS, which was a 3D game, kind of an isometric view and route, but you could turn the camera. But the games were more like, what do you call it? Like shadow box levels, you know? They were all self-contained little bitty levels with a flag at the end.
Right, yeah.
It's almost like they took a 2D Mario game and they backed the camera up a little bit and tilted it to the side and let the levels play out. And they weren't as sweeping collectathons as like Sunshine and 64 and Galaxy. They were more just linear, but in a 3D environment.
So they're quite retro feeling, like in the sense it was just one point to one point.
They introduced like some new items like the double cherry and then some other. I'm having a hard time remembering. I played through them all and I enjoyed them, but they never quite felt like 64 or Sunshine or Galaxy to me. They were always something a little off. Like I enjoyed them, but they were more like, I don't know. I don't have the best way to explain it.
Yeah.
They were definitely like I think you hit it right there. They were definitely retro feeling, even though they were new. And then, of course, we had a new Super Mario Brothers for the Wii U, new Super Luigi U, which was basically the hard version of new Super Mario Brothers U. And then Mario 3D World was the Wii U version of 3D Land that came out on the 3DS. Was also good. Did you play that one?
No. I will say the only Mario games that I played for the Wii U would be Mario Maker and New Super Mario Bros.
Okay, so then on the last Wii U game, speaking of Mario Maker, was Super Mario Maker. And I remember taking my daughter to GameStop to play a early build before it was released. Because, you know, for someone my age who played Mario when I was, 8 years old or however old I was when it came out, it was a dream come true. I mean, this is super nerdy because when we were, my friends and I were young playing Mario Brothers for the first time, we used to take while one of us was playing, the other one would take grid paper and we'd draw our own Mario levels and invent imagine how cool this would be. And so something like that was 20 years too late for me, but it was still fun. I actually played quite a bit of it. And I know you got a Wii U just to play that game, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Not long after I discovered Twitch, actually, I honestly don't know how I came across it, but
watching Krunnky maybe.
No, Krunnky wasn't the first one that I came across.
Oh, okay.
He was further down the line. I think I honestly don't remember, but there was like a slew of people that were playing Mario Maker, and they were really high in the viewer count.
Yeah.
And after watching some of them play it, I was like, I really want to go and play this. I will go and buy a Wii U just for this game because it looks so much fun, and it just infinite possibilities of what you can do with levels, and the fact that Nintendo give you the control of building these levels is just, it's mind-blowing what people can come up with. Some of the levels that I've seen being played, it's astounding. It really is.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. When I saw the early build of that, I actually watched a little, I think it was on YouTube from Nintendo. They said that the idea for that came because Miyamoto directed his programming team to give them a tool sort of like that. It was based on Mario Paint a little bit. They have this software internally at Nintendo where they can design things in the engine and test them right there. And it helped them build New Super Mario Brothers for the Wii and the 3DS and on 2D side-scrolling games on the fly as a bigger team. And they could basically outsource 30 people to design levels and then just take the best of the best from those 30 people.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really wonder if Nintendo can they ever go back to another 2D game after Mario Maker? Isn't that the end of the life for 2D Mario?
Yeah.
I leave it to Nintendo to think of something. They'll think of something outside the box that'll basically make us go, oh yeah, that is a good idea. But right now I'm like, they can't keep pumping out new Super Mario games because that's basically, if you buy Super Mario Maker, you can play everything that anyone can think of and more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
which I think is why there is like a massive gap for Mario Maker 2 to be released for the Switch, because with the poor selling of, we're going back to the Wii U, the poor selling of the Wii U, the fact that they discontinued the Miiverse as well, it just seems like they're almost cutting ties with the Wii U at the moment, which eventually will happen where everything that's on that console will just die and wither out.
Yeah.
So if they want to bring it into this era of the gaming consoles, they need to create a Mario Maker 2 for the Switch. That it needs to happen. Whether it will or not, I don't know. But I just think if they don't do it, they're missing such a trick. Yeah,
I mean, you're right. They could let Mario Maker just rot there in the Wii U for the 14 people who are still playing it, and then bring back, hey, we brought back Super Mario Brothers 2D, and here it is for the Switch. It's called New Super Mario Brothers whatever Switch.
Yeah, so original.
So then after Mario Maker, a year later comes Super Mario Run for iOS and Android. It was Mario's first appearance on a console or on a mobile device.
Mobile device, yeah.
On tablets. Funny that you say it. I had been thinking about getting an iPad and I had never had one. And Molly kept asking me for one, my daughter. And finally I was like, okay, let's do it. And I bought it. And one of the first apps I put on it was that Mario Run. And I played it for about a week and had a good time with it. I mean, it was, one finger is all you needed to play that game. Tap, 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 tap. Yeah. And it was fine, but once it ran its course, I was pretty much done with it. I enjoyed playing it. I mean, I didn't have it, but it was $10 and that was it. And I was done with it.
Oh, you paid for it?
Yeah. If you pay for it, there's a bunch more levels. Yeah,
see, that's the beef I have with that game. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was... I mean, it was fine. It was fine as a mobile game, but I don't think it was worth the money for paying to unlock the rest of the levels.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. I appreciate Nintendo's stance on it. I mean, from what I've seen and heard is they were faced with the decision of, okay, do we make the game free and then back charge everything, all the upgrades later on, or do we charge just a static price up front to where if everybody who buys it pays for the things to be made, and then we don't have to charge any microtransactions after that.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson they learned was that second option doesn't work for the mobile audience. The mobile audience has been conditioned to everything's got to be cheap to get in, and if I want to pay later, I might.
Yeah.
And I'm not paying $10 up front. And where, people who aren't huge into mobile gaming, I'm not. I could see it and like, hey, if I had the choice to pay $10 up front and everything be free, or pay $1 up front and everything be $5 a month after that, I'm going to take the $10 up front. But not everybody makes that decision, and they assume that Nintendo's got ulterior motives down the road, I think.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Go on. Oh, I was going to say, it's pretty much what you just said before. It's like the mobile community has been conditioned to that point. So in regards to like the price of, how much did you pay for it? $10, was it?
$10.
$10 for a mobile app in that community is a lot.
Yeah.
If you compare it to everything else.
If you compare it to, if you're just looking at the entry fee, it's a lot. If you're looking at the course of the average person, what they spend on Candy Crush, it's pennies. I mean, it's nothing.
You have to think like, that's $10. That's a massive chunk. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing microtransactions, it doesn't seem that much at the time. So you can do like $1.30 transaction, $1.20, £2 here and there. If you do it in little sections, it doesn't occur to you that you're paying that much eventually over a period of time.
And I think this is a case of, at least from my standpoint, and maybe I've got this all wrong, Nintendo was trying to do right by their customers, inadvertently chopped off a bunch of their upfront audience. And they've said this. They've come out and said that the way we price structured that was not right for that market. And they seem to have realized that, and they released I'm not an Animal Crossing fan, but a lot of people are. There's a game called Pocket Camp where it's free. Download the app.
Yeah.
And you get 6 moves a day. You want to do 7? Well, here you buy a ticket for 99 cents. You can do a couple more. You want to, and then, that game's made money hand over fist because, like you said, people will pay that $1 here, $1 there.
Yeah.
To the 10 times more than the $10 of the course of when they play the game. Yeah. And, Nintendo, I'm kind of conflicted because I think they were trying to do the right thing and ended up screwing their game, the franchise Mario Run, and also their customers. They got more money on their customers. So,
but then, like you say, I don't think it was particularly their fault. It's just the way that mobile gaming works now. Yeah,
this is their first foray into mobile gaming. Actually, it was their second. Yeah. Their first one was that Miitopia crap or whatever it was called. That's god awful.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, God, don't even get me started.
Anyway,
so that was way back in 2016, and then some other game came out last year. At the end of last year, I can't remember what it was called. I don't think anybody played it. Do you know what it's called?
No, it wasn't that popular, was it?
No, it was called like Homer's Odyssey or something.
Yeah, like Adventure or something.
I think everyone knows what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Super Mario Odyssey came out in 2017. What was it, August? September?
Oh, actually, I don't know that.
That would have required research that I didn't do.
Yeah.
So Super Mario Odyssey came out toward the mid to end of 2017, and everyone played it, and everyone loved it, and everyone lived happily ever after.
No, pretty much.
So why don't you tell us about your Super Mario Odyssey obsession to get everything?
Oh, what?
Didn't you get everything in the game? Huh?
Maybe.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. I think much like the Wii U for Mario Maker, I specifically bought a Switch just to play Mario Odyssey. I was so excited about that game, and I didn't even have a Switch at the time it was released.
Oh, I'm going to embarrass you right now and remind you of how ugly you got about this.
Shut up.
Okay, so for those listening at home, this is so out of character that I feel it's okay to make fun of her for it. She comes home one day and she goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I go, "What?" She goes, "My sister got a Nintendo Switch and she doesn't even like video games." I'm like, "Wait, you told me she likes video games." She goes, "Yeah, but I really want one and now she's got one." And I go, "Maybe you guys could share it." No. I got to get my own. It was just, oh God, I was laughing so hard that day.
Yeah.
That's how much you really wanted that Switch, though.
Yes, I was very bitter about that, but I got over it anyway.
You bit her over this?
No, what? No.
I'm joking. That was a bad joke.
Shut up. Oh, that joke. I eventually got my own Switch and got Mario Odyssey with it, and absolutely played the crap out of it.
Yeah.
I streamed a lot of it, I think.
Yeah, you did.
And then But the problem with it was because I was so into it that I couldn't wait to stream it. So after I'd done like one of the levels, if I got to the end of the stream, I would then go offline and then just carry on playing in the level and go back and get as many moons as I could physically possibly get in that level and restrict myself to like progressing in the game and going to the next level. So yeah, I did get quite obsessed with it.
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least, yeah. And then, yeah, eventually I went back and I didn't quite 100% it because I'm missing some moons, but it requires like grinding coins just to buy moons at the shops. So I wasn't particularly bothered about that, but I managed to get all the costumes that were involved in it.
You got all the outfits too?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
For the most part, the ones that have just been released with the DLC I haven't got.
Oh, that's right, because they put out free DLC to it, right? The balloon hunt or whatever they call it.
They did, yeah. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, Luigi is now introduced into the game with his own mini game, which is I can't remember what it's called, but it's like just a balloon hunt.
Yeah.
And basically, you haven't played it, have you?
No, my wife discovered Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I have not seen my Switch since.
Oh no. Okay, you're not missing out on much.
Okay.
I will tell you that. It is basically what it is. It says on the tin. You have Luigi gives you a balloon. You have to go and hide it somewhere in the level, and then depending on how long you take to plant the balloon where you want it to be hidden, other players can go and try and discover your balloon, and they have that set amount of time to go and find it.
Oh.
And it basically just gives you coins. So it's a very easy way, if you are grinding coins, it's a very easy way of gathering that amount that you need. But apart from that, there's not a great deal more to it as far as I've discovered.
If I remember looking at one of the Nintendo Directs, they said there's like more costumes in there now, and maybe some like better. I think they just did some quality of life improvements, like how to better keep track and sort your best of times compared to your friends, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. As far as like new levels, there is nothing with that yet. So yeah, it's just basically like a mini game, and like you say, a couple more costumes that you can get if you really want to.
I like that they introduced that like asynchronous multiplayer, you know, where you have a leaderboard with just your friends where you're hiding the balloons. That seems kind of interesting. If you're really, I don't know, let's say you're obsessed enough to get every moon and you have nothing left to do, that might be something fun for you to do.
It kept me entertained for probably about, I don't know, an hour maybe.
The balloon part did, you mean?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the balloon part, yeah.
I've heard stories I've read on Reddit, like people hiding balloons in like unobtainable areas, like glitching out in the spots, and people get mad about that.
Yeah, there are definitely some parts to that as well. So that's always fun.
One of the rules of multiplayer gaming: if there's a way to break the game and screw other people will figure it out.
You so much.
I was reading this like what if thread somewhere on Reddit or somewhere about introducing in Mario Odyssey a battle royale game. Where everyone picks like a Mario or Luigi or a different Mario character and gets dropped into Dudonk City and has to kill each other with fireballs, so there's one guy left.
Oh my word.
That would be pretty funny.
That would be quite funny, actually.
And the winner gets a Princess Peach cake. Right?
Yes, I'm totally down for that.
Well, that gets us all the way through the Mario series. We've managed to get here in just over an hour, which I'm pretty impressed with. We did a couple of sidetrack things here, but so now the big question is, what is your favorite Mario game of all time? You have to pick one, gun to your head.
Okay, it's Mario 64.
Mario 64?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
It's your guts telling you Mario 64, right?
Yeah.
Not Odyssey. Not Mario Maker.
No. Well, Mario 64 for me was just like such a revolutionary game in, like you were talking about the 3D system.
Yeah.
Just for that, and the N64 is by far my favorite console ever.
Yeah.
So just the innovation that came with Mario 64 was just so immense, and even it's not like I haven't got rose tinted glasses on either. Like from playing it when I was younger, I played it recently and I still love it. I don't think there's any other Mario that can come. It may not come close, but can top Mario 64 for me.
Yeah, I could definitely agree. I'd have to say that is my favorite as well. So we got the same one. Yay!
Yeah.
And we did not talk about this beforehand. But yeah, I agree with you for mostly the same reasons. It was much like Ocarina of Time, it took a franchise that I already liked. I already liked lots about it, and it took it into a dimension that just, expanded the possibilities of what gaming could be while somehow being familiar and nostalgic at the same time. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
And I agree, it holds up. In fact, I would argue that Mario Odyssey is as popular and as nostalgic to everyone because it's the one I think is most like Mario 64 in so much as they have like Peach's Castle level like integrated into the game, and they have the little paintings you jump into. And I would say that one is as much of a love letter to Mario 64 as any of the other 3D games since then.
The one thing that actually I found interesting, because I think I was talking to Krunnky about it a few weeks ago, he was saying that while Odyssey is great, in the game itself, it doesn't really have like a base point.
Yeah.
Where 64 does, because you're in the Peach's Castle.
They call that a hub world.
Yes. Yeah, a hub world. Thank you. Yeah. So Odyssey doesn't really have that. You can't include the ship itself as the hub world or hub point or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing there. There's no levels. It takes you to a level, but there's nothing inside it or like encapsulates the same thing as what Peach's Castle did in 64. That's
reminds me of why I think you should give Galaxy a try, because it does have a hub world. So does Sunshine for that matter. It's a whole town, but Galaxy, you fly in this like giant ship, sort of like Cappy's spaceship. But instead of it being a cap that just takes you to the world, you literally you go in the ship and then you go to like a navigation point, and that's where you pick your world and then go there, and it launches you to the start of the level.
Huh.
But yeah,
if I can get my hands on a Wii, I'll give it a try.
There you go. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode.
Yay.
What are you going to be streaming here next? I think this episode will come out this week.
I have to finish LA Noire, but I have another game lined up.
Is it a secret? Can you not tell us about it?
No, I'm not going to tell you about it yet.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
So you have to check her out at twitch.tv/CherryCakeTV.
What about you, Krunk? Where can people find you?
People can find me at twitch.tv/Krunnky with 2 N's. I'm going to be playing this Friday. Today is the 12th when we're recording this. This episode will be out before Friday, I'm sure. And you'll be able to see myself and Molly playing the new Switch game called Kirby Star Allies. We're going to play that together on stream on Friday night and then do a live podcast shortly thereafter.
Ooh, get your initial reactions.
Yeah, I've never been one to play many Kirby games. My daughter absolutely loves them. Has played all of them that we've been able to get in front of her. And I want to talk to her about her experience on Kirby games and then, where it goes from here.
Nice.
But you can reach me at Krunnky_Twitch on Twitter. And Cherry can be found at CherryCake518.
Yeah, you got it right.
Hey, I remembered. 20-some episodes, and I finally got it.
Yes.
Also, you can reach out to Cherry on Twitter for artwork for your streams. She does some fantastic transition work, and she does do some, not logo work, but what do you call it? The little emotes. You've done a few emotes I know you did one for D.
Yeah.
And I think that about does it. Oh, also, you can follow on my channel for now in the evenings. I'll be replaying past episodes of the podcast. If you guys are looking for a place to catch up on the old ones outside of your normal delivery method, check there. And you can also check it on YouTube/Krunnky for some of my PUBG videos, and the rest of our podcast episodes are on there as well. So thanks for letting me plug all that stuff, guys. And thanks for being here, Cherry.
No problem, Krunk. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.